What's going on, guys? I got just a couple of minutes or so on my cell phone camera memory, so I'll try to make this relatively quick, but I wanted to give a little bit of an update, kind of let the cat out of the bag on a project I've been throwing some hints up for on Instagram, and it's going to be a pretty relatively big project, but things are going along somewhat well so far. I'm pretty excited, and figured I'd go ahead and show you guys what I'm doing and where I'm at. So I'll show you kind of what the majority of my time recently has been spent on. And that's welding up this 2-inch square tube base. About close to 400 pounds of steel there. And kind of one of my first forays into welding, at least for a personal project. I've done a little bit of MIG welding at work. For this I'm using a FluxCore cheapy Harbor Freight 90 amp or so wire welder over there, and it does an okay job. It's actually pretty decent for this 1/8 inch or 135 thou thick walled square tube, and you know, it should certainly get the job done. So we got a little bit of bowing and tweaking here. I can maybe take a little bit more of that out, but you know, really it's very close. Just got one shim under the corner there to kind of stabilize everything, and you know, it's got a little bit of rock in it still, but I do plan on putting some leveling feet or leveling pads on it, as well as doing a little bit more structurally to it that maybe hopefully should let me rack it one way or the other and get a little bit of that frame straightened out some more. So we'll see. I'll have to kind of think about things a little bit more as far as how to kind of pull things one way or the other. But you know, for what it is, I'm pretty happy with it so far. Definitely got a lot of grinding left to do, clean up, a little bit more welding, and then I'll prime and paint it eventually. But you guys are probably wondering what this is for, so I'll go ahead and spill the beans here. I finally decided to go ahead and build myself a CNC router. So this will be the base table for it, or the main frame. There's going to be probably 1.5 inches or so worth of some kind of board or plate, probably MDF to start. That'll make up the main field there. And then I've got some 80/20 extrusion that'll make up the rails and things. And I got some more parts coming in, and quite a few more to get hold of. But I figured I'd kind of get halfway started on the main structure here, and then I kind of see where we're at and go from there. Still got a little bit of research to do as far as electronics, motors, controls, things like that. This design is actually, to give credit, is actually Joe's at joecnc.com. I don't recall his last name, Cantrell, I think. But he's been in the CNC game for a while now. Designed his own machine several years ago. When I actually first started looking into this, he had some kits available, and as well as a hybrid machine that I was seriously considering for some projects back then. And since then, he's developed what this will hopefully ultimately turn into, which is the Evolution machine, kind of an evolution from his hybrid, and that it's a little more structurally stable, made from steel and aluminum, and has a little bit more stability, a little bit stouter for milling things like aluminum and whatnot. And I've really been pretty impressed with his forum. You pay about $75 for his hybrid plans and membership to the forum, which includes some SolidWorks drawings and some general bill of materials, layouts and things, as well as some very detailed builds of this machine. There's really no plans specifically per se, you know, like a step-by-step slot A into tab B kind of thing. But if you kind of cruise around the forums, you start realizing pretty quickly, you know, that it's something that can be built just kind of from seeing what other guys have done, you know, going off the hybrid plans themselves. and kind of piecing together from the other resources available to this. If I'm not mistaken, the hybrid plans are pretty detailed in and of themselves, and he kind of just adapted those for this structure in this machine. So, you kind of go through from beginning to end, and, like I say, while there's not a direct layout or manual per se on how to build this, there's certainly more than enough resources to kind of get one together and even modify it to your own needs and specifications. So if any of you guys are interested in maybe getting into a CNC, or even just some information on general CNC building, programming information, it's absolutely more than worth the cost of admission to the forums. They're a little antiquated as far as the V-Bulletin or whatever he uses. It's nothing really fantastic or spectacular, but the information that is there is quite good, as well as the people who I've seen have been more than willing to jump into a new discussion or even an old one, and kind of help people out with what they need to figure out or work on. So that's where I'm at now. Again, I got a lot more welding and kind of some tweaking, grinding, painting to do. My main goal is to kind of get this base completely finished as it sits, paint it up, and then I will start kind of putting the X rails, the Y rail, the gantry, and all that, get that started, and kind of start stepping through the main structure of the build, and finally hopefully finish up with deciding what kind of electronics, how big of the stepper motors I want, what kind of controllers, enclosures, wires, cable track, and things like that. Whether I want to go with a spindle or maybe start with just a trim router at first. Those are all kind of decisions I still have to make, and still quite a bit more to invest in this. So it may be kind of a little by little, step by step. I may end up with kind of a faux workbench here or table for a little while I kind of figure that all out. But the important thing is that it started, and we are making progress, which is more than I could say, previously over the years that I've been kind of wanting to do this, but never quite got into it. So there it is, guys. I know it wasn't much to look at, just to hear me blabbering on the whole time, but I know some of you guys were curious what all these posts on Instagram are, and now hopefully you know. So stay tuned, guys, and I'm sure there'll be a little bit more as we get into it. Now, I'm not probably going to do a whole lot of build details, not that I really ever do on things that I've got going on in the shop. As I really want to be fair to Joe and, the time and effort he's put into these plans. Obviously, you don't want to give too much away from that end, but I definitely want to point you guys in that direction. It's definitely worth the cost if you're getting into it. So that's where we're at, and we'll see where we end up. Thanks for watching, guys.